from Athens in Greece, tour number 5 for me for the season, and a very exciting one because today's interview is probably the highest profile interview we've done on the channel so far. And it happens to be with a sportsman who does my favorite sport and one of my favorite athletes that does that sport. He is known as the captain. We'll get into more details in a bit as to why he's known as the captain. But welcome, Matt Trautman.
Thanks, Gordon. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's really great to catch up with you. We're going to talk about Kona in a bit, but let's start. Let's tell the story of Matt Trautman. Talk to us about where you were born, where you went to school.
I was born in Pietermaritzburg in the Sleepy Hollow, your neck of the woods. Grew up there. Went to primary school in Pietermaritzburg, Scottsville. Played all the usual South African sports: cricket, rugby, hockey, anything. Very active as a kid, and the more sports I could do, the happier I was for it. And then went to boarding school for my high school years in Hilton, and graduated from there in 2002, I think that was. Again, very active in high school, but no real triathlon focus in any of the sports really. Some swimming, I'd do the mid-mile. I think I did it most years, but it was very much just coming from zero training. I was actually very much into my paddling when I was at school. It's obviously a popular sport there in Pietermaritzburg, Durban region. So I did the Doozy Canoe Marathon a few times in high school, and it was just that was definitely my passion while I was there.
I'm glad you mentioned the Doozy, because you did the Doozy with your brother. It was a bit of a challenge. Tell us more about that.
That was actually I think it was probably about 8 years after I left school that I teamed up with him. Again, just reuniting the sibling relationship there. It's definitely a good way to bond with anyone. 3 days on the river, and you obviously pushing hard and get yourself in some situations. So it's always you always get quite close to your doozy partner. So that was good fun. And we did the non-stop doozy that same year. It was a good block of paddling there while I was back home. But otherwise I'd come from I think from the UK that time. I was sailing there, and then after the doozy went back into the sailing scene.
Well, they always say if you want to test whether or not you're married to the right person, do Absa Cape Epic with them or Doozy Canoe Marathon, because if you still love each other by the end of that, then you know that it was meant to be. Okay,
absolutely.
You mentioned
or I'll add, we'll go sailing if you can do an ocean crossing with with your wife. Then you probably and you're not ready to kill each other at the end of it, then
it should work. It'll probably work. I'm glad you mentioned you're leading so nicely into each question. Talk about the sailing. Where did the sailing come from? There's not a lot of sailing in Pietermaritzburg other than Midmar, and that's not really sailing. That's kind of just enjoying the flat, calm waters of the dam. How did you get into the sailing, particularly the professional side of it?
That was very much just an idea as a gap year after I'd left school. With the paddling, I was like, I've always enjoyed being on the water, whether it's on a river or on the sea. We'd spend a bit of time when we were growing up my parents are from Zimbabwe, so we'd always go to Lake Kariba there, go fishing there, and did some sea fishing and some spear fishing around Durban as well. And I've always just enjoyed being around the water, so I thought this is a great way to be on the water and to get to do some traveling and hopefully earn some money. So I did a sailing course in Durban after I left school, and then got a job on a boat in Mozambique, just doing like diving and fishing charters, and met a guy there who had a racing yacht in the UK, and he was looking for crew. So went over to the UK and joined him and his boat, and it was an old Whitbread round the world racing yacht, big 80-foot boat, needed a lot of crew, like a lot of everything was manual and very heavy old sails, and just required a lot of grunt work to get the boat moving. And but yeah, I mean, it was such good fun. Definitely more up my alley compared to the charter scene. You've got the competitive aspects, and yeah, it's just such an adventure. I mean, especially at that age, coming from boarding school, all boys boarding school setup, and then you've just got all the freedom in the world, and it was it was amazing. A real it makes you, it definitely made me mature very quickly, and it was the best thing for me at that stage of my life for sure. And I just really enjoyed pretty much all of my sailing career, but those first few years was just so different compared to where I'd come from. Carry on.
And that's where the nickname the Captain came from, and it's kind of stuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, I was sailing for, that gap year turned into 2, which turned into 10. Never really made it back to do the university thing as was originally planned. I sort of just worked my way up. I mean, from deckhand, and generally when the younger guys, you on a racing boat, to get put on the bow, so you're the bowman, you pretty much pulling up the sails and taking them down, and you get you get the most wet up at the front of the boat. You have to be quite nimble, and then sort of as you age and
you can move further down to the back of the boat, right?
Exactly, less keen to get soaking wet the whole time. So I eventually ended up right at the back of the boat. Skippering different racing boats, and I did probably the highlight of my sailing career was the single-handed sailing that I did. Did a race across the Atlantic on these 6.5 meter yachts, so 21 foot, very small but very powerful boats, and you go from France to Salvador in Brazil single-handed, and they try and keep the class very pure, no communication to the outside world, and it's just like full-on sailing, like huge sail areas, and it was such an experience. It was, I mean, the crude stuff was fun, but when it's just you and your boat and the ocean, it's like you got no excuses. It's whatever happens, it's up to you. So that was, I mean, I guess what sort of led into triathlon and the paddling at that stage was just, I think I'd gotten like a little bit over the crude sailing, just wanted to accomplish something for myself. And the single-handed sailing, the plan was to try and do around the world race, but those are on 60-foot boats, open 60s they're called, and I mean, it's a huge investment, and maybe one day I could still get back there, but triathlon, funny enough, seemed like the cheaper option to try.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone call triathlon a cheaper option.
When you come from sailing, it's
well, we talk about cheaper options. I want to talk about your sponsors in a bit. Before we get there, though, the transition to professional triathlete, obviously with a good understanding of the sea. There's a reason why when we stand on the beach at a pro race and the sea's rough, every other pro man on the beach looks scared. Matt looks excited because he's not worried about rough seas. How did the pro triathlon thing? Did you start off as an age grouper and then go, well, I'm doing quite well. Let's move up.
Yeah, so I did my first triathlon in 2012. I was looking after a boat in the UK at the time, and it was the London Olympics on at that stage. And yeah, the Brownlee brothers were obviously very prominent, and I mean they got gold and bronze there in London. And yeah, it was all like triathlon was definitely one of the most highlighted sports of that Olympics in the UK at least.
Yes.
And yeah, that definitely what triggered my interest, and thought, okay, I could give this a go. And I was looking for a new challenge after the doozy that I'd done. I think it was the year before. Yeah, so I signed up for a half distance race there in the UK. It was called the Cotswolds Classic. I mean, it was maybe a little short. I think it was an 80k bike and a 20k run, but close to a half distance. And yeah, ended up second overall there.
Wow.
And really enjoyed it, and figured it would be cool to see, you know, how far I could take it, and the improvements that see what the possibilities were, basically, which is, I guess, the start for everyone. You know, it's always that carrot dangling. You know, how much better can I get?
Right.
Is probably what drives most people forward and keeps them coming back to the sport. Yeah, so then came back to South Africa at the end of that year in 2012, and joined Kent and Clare Horner at my training day. And yeah, I was doing some work locally here for a sail making company. And then yeah, just training with my training day, and did 70.3 East London that year in January, and then Ironman South Africa, where yeah, managed to win my age group and qualified for Kona.
Oh wow.
And so then went to Kona. That was 2013, was second in my age group there, and I think like 30th overall.
Wow.
And then figured let's try go full time as a professional for 2014, and that's that was my journey as an age grouper.
And
pretty brief.
Your it was very quick step from age grouper. Let's give this a go. While most people chase personal bests, you were chasing wins. And then your first professional race, where was that? And do you remember? Is it a vivid memory for you, or was it a bit of a blur? Your first pro race?
Yeah, I think my very first one was 70.3 East London again, which didn't go that great, but that one, I think I got food poisoning just before the race. It wasn't I don't think a fair reflection of where I was at that stage. And
right.
Then did Ironman South Africa again, and I think I got 5th there, which was fine. It wasn't a championship race at the time, and yeah, it was, I mean, definitely still looking for the right way to train as a professional, looking for some guidance. And I mean, I was very keen at that stage to like progress as quick as I could. So I mean, I was still like so new to the sport. I really didn't know too much of how to go about things. But I'd read about, I think from Chrissy Wellington's book, about Brett Sutton and James Cunnama, local South African pro at the time, was being coached by him, or had been coached by him. And so I managed to get some funding together and go over to Switzerland, and I joined his squad there. And real eye-opener in terms of just a different way to approach training from what I had been doing. Not necessarily more training, just smarter and and I mean that's that camp environment. There are a lot of athletes, there are a lot of professional athletes, and just being immersed in that sort of environment and being amongst great athletes. Daniela Reef was there at the time, and Nicholas Spirik, and so you had a future world champion. She wasn't world champion yet, but Olympic champion, and just some very strong athletes, and that definitely helped me progress pretty quickly. So then I did Ironman Wales. It was Wednesday in September that year, after 3 months with Brett in Switzerland, and managed to win that race. And that was my first win as a professional, and that really sort of cemented my belief that I could make it as a pro.
Which it would, right? I mean, like, winning a race as a pro is rare for most pros. There are some pros that go through their entire career with top 3, being the highest point that they get. I remember watching that race. So there was a live stream camera on the finish line when you won your first one, and I remember just being so incredibly proud. At that point, I wasn't really aware of who Matt Trautman was. I wasn't as involved in the sport as I was now. And seeing you win, and being South Africa winning in Europe, I was like, you see, they breed us tough here in South Africa. What is your most memorable win? And I would imagine that winning after your accident probably is high up there. We'll talk about the accident in a sec, but just talk to us about your most memorable win.
I mean, that first one in Wales will obviously always stand out as, I mean, it was definitely a breakthrough race for me. But then after that, it's the ones where you have to overcome a lot of obstacles to either get to the race or to perform well during the race that are, that I'm most proud of. And so the races post-accident are definitely, some of the ones that I'm proud of.
All right, let's dive into that, because that was a shock for all of us when we got the news that you had been involved in an accident, and it was it was very serious, and with potential career-ending injuries. How did that happen? Do you remember any of it? Or is it just you were out training, and the next thing you knew, you were in a hospital?
No, I mean, I didn't lose consciousness for long. It was maybe I don't know, 30 seconds or something. It wasn't like I remember most of it. It was out on a training ride. It was a week before 70.3 South Africa, going towards Franschhoek Pass, just along that valley road that leads into Franschhoek, and there's a big shoulder there that you can ride in. And it was probably, I think I'd swum beforehand. It was maybe 10:30, bright sunny day, middle of summer here, and car basically just drove straight into the back of me at high speed. And I then went backwards onto the car, hit the bonnet on the windshield, and flew over the top of the car. And it was like, I don't know what had happened. I didn't realize it was a car that hit me at the time. It was just the next thing I was flying through there. I think I thought it might have been a pothole or something that I hit. Because I mean, it was very sudden.
And the injuries? What were the injuries?
So they sort of rushed me to hospital. I could feel that, I mean, something wasn't right with my back, and I mean, I was pretty bloody and bruised, but I still thought, I mean, 70.3 was a week away, and I was like, you could maybe you can maybe
just a flesh wound.
But once they did the scans, they did an X-ray, and then an MRI to confirm what they had seen. And it was basically 3 damaged vertebrae, one of them completely compressed, and the ligaments between the vertebrae had all torn, I think, as I was like rotating through the air. Those tore once after I'd hit the bonnet. I think the main impact was obviously bonnet and windshield, and then the ligaments tore. And so like the crushed vertebrae, I mean, it was pretty close to the spinal cord, but luckily, I mean, very luckily, no damage to the spinal cord. I mean, that would have been a completely different injury. So, I mean, look, in hindsight, I did get away lightly from what could have been. But the lack of the ligaments was the reason they had to do a spinal fusion between three of the vertebrae, just because there's no stability there and there's no other option to stabilize the spine.
Maddie, what did you when you were sort of lying in hospital and they'd now explained to you what has happened, being a professional athlete where your body is your instrument, what did you think? I mean, was there any depression, or did you think, no, I'm going to fight through this?
Yeah, I think like at that early stage, it was still too soon to like go through all the emotions. I think I was still just in a bit of shock and just trying to process what had happened. I definitely wasn't like depressed, not at that stage. That came later. It was just trying to work out the best solution to the injuries. And I mean, we got second and third opinions just to make sure that this was going to be the best way forward. Because like the surgeon there in Stellenbosch he had done a lot of operations on rugby players who had spinal injuries mainly from scrumming, I think. And he was pretty blunt at the time. He's like, look, it's not to come back from this to a professional level is probably not going to be possible.
Ouch.
It was he definitely didn't paint a pretty picture. He was like, I mean, it's the only option, but it's going to be potentially career ending.
And then you did come back. I mean, obviously lots of therapy and lots of work that needed to be done, but you did come back, and you came back with a bang.
I mean, it was a long process. It's I mean, it was a good 6 months without running. At least there was I mean, the first 6 weeks was pretty much just I mean, like I could walk pretty quickly after the surgery. Within the next couple of days, like I walked out of the hospital. It's not like I was completely like bedridden, but you just had to be cautious with any bending or any loading of it. To like, you needed the bone to grow over those
over the fusion
over the fusion and over the damaged vertebra. And then it was like just a case of being patient, which I think was the hardest part. Like,
are you patient?
No, I was definitely trying to rush things to get back, which I mean was like ridiculous at the time. But it's just like, I mean, you go from absolute full training mode and peak condition, ready to race, to not being able to do anything. And like, it takes your mind a while to come to grips with it.
You've almost got to reset. It's almost a reset, because you're used to performing at a high level, and your body is just saying no, like it can't happen right now, and you've got to now reset your way of thinking.
For sure. I mean, I was treating the rehab as training, really trying to like outdo myself every day, and like that probably, like that sort of mindset's probably not the best way to go about that type of accident. And luckily, Brett was still coaching me at the time, and he gave me a stern talking to. He saw where this was going, and
thanks,
managed
Dad,
to talk some sense into me. So I mean, it's a process. Your body has to adapt, and you can't rush that process. So I mean, the biggest thing was the loading of the vertebra below the fusion, and that's like, it's still the it's still the biggest thing for me now to be conscious of, because you've taken away 2 or 3 of the discs that act as shock absorbers. You just place in all of that load onto the lower back. So yeah, it took. Yeah, I mean, so I raced. I did a few local races towards the end of that year. So maybe 9 months after the accident, and then did Ironman 70.3 cycle.
Yeah, now hang on. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop you there because when we heard you were coming back to race, and as announcers and media, everyone was kind of like, wow, this is really cool that Maddie's back. But everyone was kind of watching you like, how good is Maddie? Is he back to the old Maddie that was dominating, or is this going to be a war of attrition for him out there? And then, I mean, you blew us away on race day. You completely blew us away.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like built up that race so much in my mind. It was literally the focus point for me, like since I started to be able to do any sort of training again. And once I had realized that there was the potential to come back, and that I could still run, that the fact that I could run was always going to be the trickiest part, and to run, I mean, competitively, and
yes.
And it's probably about like over Christmas time, like I started pushing a little bit too hard and started getting some sciatic nerve pain down the back of my right leg, and it just progressively got worse as I got closer to the race. And like, I don't think I ran much at all for the last couple of weeks before that race. And I mean, even like in race week, I tried to do a run, I think on like the Friday before the race, and it was just super uncomfortable. And like, I remember watching Kenneth, one of the Belgian guys, like warming up on race morning on the pier, and he was doing like these sprints down the pier, and I was just like, there's absolutely no way. Like, I was like, if I can run into the water, I'll be
happy.
Like, it just like, I mean, I built up the race so much. I was like, you just got to just get in the water, and like, if that's fine, then you probably can get on the bike, and if you call it quits after the bike, no one's going to hold it against you.
Yes.
And so I definitely wasn't in a very positive mindset going into the race. But once that gun goes off,
red mist.
It's and I managed to get a lead on the bike and had a good gap on the guys, and so I thought, just give the run a go. And you don't have to run at your best, you just have to
stay in front of
the other guys. And that's what I did. And it was, I mean, definitely one of the races I'm proudest of. Just, I mean, from what it from where it come from that year. But it did some damage. I mean, I was then out for another few months after that, to try and let the one of the I then got another scan, and one of the discs in the lower back had started bulging and pushing against some of the nerves there, and that's what that's the cause,
causing the sciatic pain.
So I had to let that disc settle completely, and then it was a process for at least 2 years to learn how to train and manage the situation. I think eventually the muscles did adapt better, and like now I don't have any sciatic pain. At least I still got it.
Was there any change to the running style? So a lot of times when we have an injury, our bodies automatically adjust to try and protect. But was there a change to your running style?
I don't think like style so much. I mean, I changed the bike setup a bit. Obviously, can't get quite as aero anymore with the Fusion. It was more just the training. It was more just a training adaptation. So yeah, less volume on the run, less intensity, and like compensated with more swimming and biking, and then just doing a lot of running on the treadmill with a softer surface.
Right.
And then within that first year, even the first 2 years, I was adding in a lot of like Ultra G running, where you can reduce your body weight. I was doing like aqua jogging, but like actually running on the bottom of the pool with trainers on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was a really good way to you still get like that muscular stimulus without any of the load. It doesn't feel like it's doing much, but it's actually a great way to train when injured. And like hiking, just like long hikes, just trying to keep that leg strength up for the run without loading the back.
Matt, I could talk to you for hours. We've only got a few more minutes left. There's only one more topic I want to chat to you about, and that is your lovely family. I had the privilege of meeting your wife. I've never met a woman who is more in love with her husband than your wife. She thinks you are an amazing man, but then again, so do all of us. You've got a little boy now. So that's a new aspect to your life, from the paddling to the yacht racing to the professional triathlon to meeting the love of your life and now having a family together.
Yeah, I mean, she's. I feel like the love may have shifted a bit to Riley. She's got to share some of that love now. But no, Nicole's awesome, and Riley as well. I mean, so much of her personality that I can see in him. Just the most loving little guy. And I mean, it's definitely been life-changing and another like priority shift, and like I'm not ashamed to say that they definitely come first. And
of course,
I mean, look, there's obviously travel and times away, but I really try and prioritize involving them as much as I can, and just still getting them that good quality time.
Well, I tell you what, you've got two massive fans in your son and your wife. When we were watching Kona this year, we didn't need to watch to find out where you were. We just followed Mrs. T's Facebook page. She gave us constant updates as to where you are. Matt, thank you firstly for taking the time to chat. I know that you've been super busy and it's cutting into a bit of your family time. Multiple Ironman champion, multiple 70.3 champion, just achieved such great success. And I'm so glad we spoke about the accident and how you came back from that, because it's super inspirational. Thank you for your time, and enjoy your off season. You've got a couple of races. You've got Mossel Bay, and then you're thinking of doing another race in Joburg. And then I demand you take some time off. Okay, I'm going to act like your coach and tell you to take some time off.
Well, I mean, Ironman African Champs is quite early next year. I think early March. I'll have Christmas, but
and New Year's. You can have Christmas and New Year's, and then you're back to work. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach. I'll take a week.
Matt Trautman, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon.